Anyway, time for the interview.
The interview. We started recording.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah.
Nik Xandir Wolf here with the the big time famous science fiction writer Andy Weir. I can never say that word right. I don't even know why I try.
Inimitable. I have to say. I can say it if I say it really slowly.
Yeah, you gotta slow it down. I'm trying to go too fast. That was it.
It's about as. Yeah, it's a challenging one.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about a couple things today. We were chatting a week or so ago about the film adaptation for your book, Project Hail Mary, which I have here.
Yay.
Wonderful book, very exciting. And my book club here in town, it's just a group of us, dads. One of the guys picked it this week, and I let them know I was going to interview you, and they're like, "Hey, well, will you ask them this and ask them that?" And I was like, "So I added
you got a list." Hey, no problem. Yeah.
And so we're called the Illiterati Book Club, So it's
seems
nice. We take it very seriously.
No. Yeah, I can tell.
Cool. So one of the things I just wanted to briefly touch on, if you don't mind. Is you've become sort of this like urban legend for your process of getting The Martian published. Can you tell us a little bit about how that kind of went down?
Well, I mean, it was quite unexpected, right? So I've been writing my whole life, and like when the time came to choose a career, when I was 18 and it was time to go to college, I'd choose between writing or computer, software engineering. And I decided I wanted regular meals, so I went for software. But I always was writing the whole time. And I wrote, short stories, comics, full-length novels. The Martian was actually my third full-length novel. And my first two were rightly never saw the light of day because they were awful. But then, so I started writing The Martian just a chapter at a time and posting it to my website. I never had any idea that it would be published. And I had a small but dedicated group of nerd fans that had accumulated over 10 years. And they were regular readers. And so it was kind of nice because I get feedback. So it's like having 3,000 fact checkers. And I was really writing it for them. These are the hardcore dorks who wanted to see the math play out in the narrative. I didn't have any notion that it would take off or get popular. Sorry. Interview. Okay. I never had any notion that it would take off and get popular or anything like that. Because I thought I was writing for this 0.1% of people who actually enjoyed that level of detail in the science. Anyway, I finished it, and some of my readers were like, "Hey, I like your book, but I hate your website," which is fair. It's a Soviet tractor factory of a website. It's just purely functional. And they're like, "Can you make an e-reader version for me?" And so I did. I made an e-reader version for people to download. And then other people said "Hey, I love your story, hate your site. I see you have an e-reader version, but I don't know how to sideload things onto my devices. Can you just put it up on Kindle so I can get it that way?" So I put it up on Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing. They make you charge at least 99 cents. So I set the price at 99 cents. And then I said, "There you go. You can read it for free, or you can pay Amazon $1 to put it on your Kindle for you." And it took off. It got really popular. And tens of thousands of downloads and purchases, I guess, technically, because not a big purchase, but yeah, tens of thousands of them. And that finally got the interest of a literary agent who said, "Hey, do you have an agent?" And I'm like, "No, I spent years trying to get one. Never got one." He's like, "Well, I'm one. You want it? And you want one?" I'm like, "Yeah, now I do." And he immediately turned around and managed to get me a book deal with Random House. And then the book did really well. New York Times bestseller list, movie, fame, fortune, gold-plated helicopters, the usual.
Yeah, I saw the
So,
gold-plated helicopter. It was cool. Thanks for picking me up
yeah,
in that. Actually,
it was nice. Yeah, some say it's inefficient to make a flying machine out of something so heavy, but
and 24 karat gold is a little soft, but
yeah, I mean, it's gold plated helicopter.
no
I
gold-plated.
mean,
Right.
it's not made entirely out of gold. That would be ridiculous. It's
That would be
it's made
impossible.
mostly out. I mean, the bulk of it is made out of platinum, but it's gold plated.
This sort of reminds me, speaking of aircraft design, one of the guys in the club had a question about your research process. They're like, how much of how much of this math is he actually doing, and like,
All of it.
does he how does he do it, or does he like go to online forums, or what's his like process, I guess?
Well, I do the math myself. I have just enough knowledge to know how to look up the things I don't know, and then I just kind of slog through it. I can appear like my characters. How do I put it? I can make characters that are way, way smarter than me, because I can spend weeks figuring something out that in the book takes them like 5 minutes, right? So I have the advantage of infinite time. And yeah, mostly my research is just Google. People think I have like a contact list full of like NASA engineers ready to do my bidding, but really I just Google whatever I want to know, and it's almost always there. Because like scientific people, especially folks that work in the space industry, are, they're technically skilled, so they know how to post stuff online, and they're generally really proud of what they do, so they're excited to post stuff online. So it's usually pretty easy to find this information.
A lot of the stuff is out there.
Yeah.
One of the other guys had a question about the story arc. It's a very complex novel, right? And the math gets more and more challenging. I mean, they make a spacecraft that and they fly to another star, right? There's an alien. So
Just
what's that?
and an alien.
Well,
note.
Side note.
Yeah, and there's an alien.
I mean, this isn't for people that have read the book.
Probably we're going to have spoilers, so yeah.
Well, the book's been out for a little while.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't read the book 4 years in the intervening 4 years, or see any of the movie trailers, yeah,
that might okay. I'll try to avoid spoilers, but yes, there.
No, I was saying I'll go full spoiler. Whatever, it's your thing. You decide whether or not it's spoilers.
Just like how was the process of creating that story arc? Was there a lot of like were you just kind of trudging through through the dark hallway, or did you figure things out? Did you know how you wanted it to end, or
Well, so the story came about because basically I'm always coming up with half-baked story ideas that aren't good enough to be books, or are not enough of a story to be a book. And so I have in my mind this kind of like disorganized mass of story ideas, and Project Hail Mary is actually kind of a collection of those all glued together and with the edges sanded off and given a lick of paint. So basically I had one idea for a story about a guy who wakes up on a spaceship with amnesia. I had nothing beyond that. I just thought, hey, that'd be neat. How would he work out? He's on a spaceship, and so on. Then there's another story I had where I wanted a mass conversion based fuel. And then I had another story idea about a woman who was like put in charge of like everything to solve like a specific problem. And she has just massive amounts of authority to cut through any and all red tape. And then, and I always wanted to do a first contact story, right? So I had all these ideas, and then at one point I realized I could glue them together and make this story. I guess the real kind of like aha moment was when I was thinking about the mass conversion fuel, because originally I wanted to say like one way or another, modern day humanity gets a hold of a mass conversion based fuel, which is like it turns mass into energy that you use as propulsion. That would, like, if we had that, we could colonize the world, the solar system, like trivially. Even with modern technology, it would be easy. We get to Mars in like days, I mean, it would be just awesome. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That'd be cool. I could make a story about how we, in the modern day, have the sudden ability to colonize the solar system. And then I was like, but how do I explain that fuel? I can't just say some lab in Geneva invented it or something. It's like, that's like way too advanced. And also, how do they make it? And da 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 da. And so I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense to me for modern technology to be able to do that, but I want it to take place modern day. So what if it's like alien in origin? Like they find a crashed alien spaceship and they find their fuel. I'm like, okay, but could we reverse engineer that? Could like a bunch of cavemen reverse engineer a nuclear reactor if we gave them one? Probably not, right? So I'm like, okay, well then we'd have like some fuel, but wouldn't be able to make more. That doesn't work for what I want. I want us to have this whole infrastructure. And then I'm like, well, what if the fuel can be used to make more fuel? Like, what if you can use the fuel to, as a seed, like a crystal nucleation or something like that, to make more of this fuel? And I'm like, well, now we have something that makes copies of itself. So that sounds like a life form. So what if it's actually a life form? I'm like, why would a life form need to do mass conversion, fuel, spacecraft crap? I'm like, oh, it could be like a space mold that like spores from star to star, and it needs to so it needs that energy to get from one star to another. I'm like, that's cool. And if we got a hold of some of that, we could breed it up in reactors or whatever, and then use that to power spaceships. And then in the back of my mind, I thought like, oh, we'd have to make sure we didn't let any of that get on our star. And I was even thinking about plot lines of like, oh, we have to make sure that this, all the uses, this would be a very controlled substance because it would be catastrophically bad if that ended up getting on our sun. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, okay, no, that's the story. There we go. It gets on our sun, and now we have a problem. And now you have to use the problem to solve the problem. Okay, there it is. So that was kind of the only aha moment. Everything else was, like I said, just like other story ideas that I kind of like put together from, yeah.
Well, astrophage, right? So,
right.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
MacGuffinite.
MacGuffinite. But still, I love that the existential threat to humanity became the fuel source,
the savior of humanity.
Yeah,
and I even touched a little bit on like, if they get through this little hump of the catastrophic disaster part, then the world afterward is going to be pretty cool, because we have this basically perfect energy storage mechanism, clean energy, it's like
it helps humanity indefinitely.
Yeah.
if we can survive.
Yeah, if you can survive the initial contact with this stuff, then you're going to have a pretty good time afterward.
Right, and it also poses threats, on the ships and stuff too, right? So
sure.
So there's also some other issues that arise with this resource that is
it's fairly it's not like this super dangerous thing, it's not like antimatter where it'll just like blow up on its own. It's like you have to coerce it into activating and stuff. So it's actually a great fuel source. It's like everything you could hope for. Kind of like C4, where you can't you can throw it in a fire, it won't go off, right? I mean, it's actually difficult. What's that?
You have to activate it.
Yeah, it needs a specific I don't know what is it. It needs like a lot of pressure all of a sudden, I think is what it needs. You need a primer I don't know. I'm not educated enough on that. But yeah, it would be great. It'd be
start
cool
researching that. You might get on some government watch list.
Yeah, sure. I'll just look up. Yeah.
So you have this metaphor that you told me for writing a project. This kind of ties into what we've been talking about. Can you tell us that your metaphor for, because you're starting a new project, right?
Yeah. I'm working on that now. I'm working on my first draft. Yeah, my metaphor is if being a writer, if you want to compare being a writer to being a sculptor, then imagine you're a sculptor and you see this really beautiful piece of marble rock out in the middle of a field somewhere, and you buy it from the farmer, but now it's your problem to get that marble rock back to your workshop. So you have to get a truck. You have to figure out how to lift that thing up into the truck. You got to drive it to your workshop. You got to figure out how to get it out of your truck into your workshop, into the place where you can work on it. Now, finally, after an enormous amount of sweat and just pain and like difficulty, and you're probably going to need to take a break for a week just so that your back recover, you finally have this really nice piece of marble, irregularly shaped whatever marble in your workshop. Now you can start carving, right? So getting that marble to your workshop is the equivalent for a writer of writing the entire first draft.
Yeah,
that's
a great metaphor, because then every other process after that's like some form of revision, but
right,
or sculpting.
It's the sculpting part is when you've taken your first draft and now you need to make it something beautiful. I vastly, I mean, I don't think I'm unique among authors in that, like, and you can tell me your take as well, but like, I vastly prefer editing my work than initially writing it. Like,
yeah, there's so much heavy lifting in the first, to your metaphor, in that first draft.
Yeah. my other metaphor for it is that, like, editing, I like editing more because it's easier to paint a house than it is to build a house.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor. Yeah, it's almost pleasurable. Like, it's hard. I mean, the initial draft is hard enough to make it like difficult, right? Not as pleasurable.
I mean, that's just like
kind of fun to go back through it and fix things.
And you're like, okay, I've got something. This is not good, but I've got something. Now I can fix this thing. Now I can fix this thing. Now I can tune that. Oh, that gave me an idea. I can exchange these, blah, blah, blah.
And then you get your notes back from your editor and you're like, God.
Then the crying. Yeah. So I get, the notes back from my editor, and like, he said, like, yeah, New York City ran out of red ink. I had to get some from Jersey, but I got these notes done.
300 red pens later.
Yeah. Well, it's all digital red ink now, but no, when I get my notes back from my editor, I allot myself 2 days to just feel bad. Like, it's like that. I call it the mourning period, and it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, oh Lord, and then I'm like, okay, all right,
I can do this. Done it before.
Okay, let's get them up.
Yeah. It's a humbling process.
Yeah.
So there's an element called Xenonite. What kind of piqued your interest about Xenon to choose that?
Well, I had decided that this is a first contact story, and I wanted to do first contact my way and try to avoid tropes and pitfalls. And one thing I never like, of course, I mean, you see it right away in the book, is I've never liked the idea of like aliens being completely compatible with our environment, like, Vulcans and Romulans are. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Trek fan. I love space opera. I got no problem with it. But I'm saying, if you're being realistic, it's extremely unlikely that an alien species would be comfortable in one Earth atmosphere, in our air, at our temperature, with a So I made it so that, the alien is very alien, and his environment is not even remotely compatible with ours, and ours is not compatible with him. The languages, all that fun stuff. So another trope that comes up a lot in first contact stories is, it almost always seems like, well, in most cases, the aliens are like more advanced than us in every form of technology, right? Well, which makes sense because they came to Earth in most of the first contact stories. Like, we came here, we have vast technologies. Now I have like 2 alien species just meeting out in space. So at least in terms of interstellar travel, they're on par. And I decided, well, in real life, in history, when two cultures had been like separated for thousands of years and then finally met, they would have different strengths and weaknesses. So, for instance, like when the Europeans first started really properly trading with the Chinese, they found like the Chinese had a bunch of stuff that they did really well that the Europeans had no idea how to do, and vice versa. Like, the Chinese had not worked out like optics, like they didn't know they didn't have glasses, like as in spectacles, and that sort of like eye correction has a tremendous effect on your society, because it means your older, wiser, smarter people can continue writing things down and reading things and can continue their intellectual pursuits longer in their life. And it has a tremendous effect on how your society advances scientifically. Meanwhile, in Europe, they had no idea how to make porcelain so thin and precisely. They had no idea how to make silk. They didn't understand, and all this stuff. They didn't have any of that. And so when these two cultures kind of met and started trading with each other, they kind of exchanged. It's like, wow, you're really good at that. We're shit at it. Here, tell me more. Oh, wow, you're amazing at that. Tell me how you did that. And all these techniques. So I wanted that for my first contact story. I didn't want like one side to be just like super advanced. And I also decided, you know what, it's going to be the humans that are a little bit more advanced in most ways. Like the Iridians are kind of behind us. They didn't know about relativity within the story. They didn't know about special relativity. They got all their fuel calculations wrong because they didn't realize that time and length dilation would happen. So they ended up with a massive excess of fuel, which helped out the main character. Yeah, but so I decided earlier, they're very good at just doing math in their head. So they never really had a huge incentive to invent computers, because we invented computers initially just to do math, so we didn't have to do it manually. And then all the other benefits of computers started to happen. But the Iridians never got over that initial hump. So we have computers, which to them are like, wow, what the hell, you know? And so I wanted the Iridians to have technologies that are vastly superior to ours. I wanted them to have something that was much better than ours. So I decided their materials technology is way better than ours. And so they have the ability to make compounds and materials that are just like, make us go, wait, what, how, what? I don't even understand. Yeah. And so that's why I picked, that's a really long-winded answer, but that's why I picked like xenonite. He analyzes it and it says it's made of xenon. And that doesn't make any sense to us, because it flies against everything we believe to be true about chemistry. But the Iridians apparently know some tricks that we don't.
Yeah, which is certainly plausible with the periodic table. There's probably a lot we haven't discovered yet. So you were a producer on this one, on the film.
I am, yeah.
You are a producer on the film.
I am. I don't know.
You guys wrapped, but you guys are. What are you working on now? It's like just looking at final cuts and stuff, or.
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen the movie lots of times. I've seen many cuts as it goes by. Now they're dialed in now. I mean, they have the scene sequencing all complete. They have the soundtrack completely laid in, and everything like that. I think all of the Foley effects, I think, are all in. They're doing the last thing that gets finished is always the last of the visual effects, right? The majority of the visual effects are already in. There's a few little sequences that still need to be done, and that generally goes down to the wire.
One of the things that we had talked about was the adaptation process, and specifically with like sets and puppet building. You want to tell us a little bit about how that process went and how Rocky was animated?
Yeah, I mean, like Chris and Phil did, they're the directors. They would always use a practical solution if possible. So they didn't, the only green screens you would see if you saw the, if you watch the no VFX version, would be green things in the background where we have space or planets or things like that. Know that when you're watching the movie, when he's on, if he's in the ship, aboard this, aboard that, aboard the other thing, that's a real practical set. It was huge. We occupied like 4 or 5 entire sound stages with all of our sets. And Rocky is well, there were many Rockies. There's the one that they control the sticks, the puppeteers, which we called the Rocketeers, and James Ortiz, who's the voice of Rocky. It was the head puppeteer, and then also there were some animatronic Rockies, where for situations where he's in a cramped area and you can't get puppeteering sticks in there, they had made these completely like remote control actuated arms and joints and stuff like that that worked at tremendous amount of detail, and they could control that. And then there's there were many different versions of Rocky that are used based on what thing they do, and there are some CG fully CG inserts of Rocky here and there in the film where it couldn't be done with practical, but they're few and far between.
It's pretty cool to see that, you know, with technology sort of going one way, you know.
Well, and it made the filmmaking process, it made the end product so much better, in my opinion, because Ryan Gosling, he likes to riff and ad lib. He likes to, so I mean, he has the script. We do some takes that are just straight to the script, and then he'll do other things because he's trying to, you know, make the best scene possible. So he will ad lib with Rocky, and then since Rocky is a puppet controlled by humans in the moment and have a voice actor, he can ad lib back, and the body language can ad lib appropriately. You know what I mean? So they can do whatever they want. And
that's pretty cool.
as opposed to talking to a tennis ball on the end of a stick and assuming, you know, and he gets nothing back from, so Ryan is an actor and he plays off of the person he's doing a scene with, right? If he's just talking to a tennis ball on a stick, he has to imagine what that character might be doing. So there's sometimes like James doing Rocky would ad lib something in response to an ad lib line and do something with body language, and then Ryan would react to the body language. And so there's a lot of stuff that you can't do with pure CGI in the creative process. You can certainly, basically, making a movie isn't like what people think, where it's like a screenplay is written, then the actors are just basically like robots who say their lines, and then post-production, right? It's like the actors are a big part of the creativity process. And with a movie that relies heavily on CG, you're removing a lot of the actor's ability to strengthen the movie with that creativity. And so I think it was a huge value add. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. One of the other book club people asked if it felt claustrophobic inside of the sets or inside of the ship or anything. Was that ever?
I mean, it was. I mean,
sorry,
it was. I mean, it's intended to feel that way when you're watching it, of course.
Right.
But no, I mean, as with all movies, like big chunks of the set were removable because, like, you know, there's a bunch of people with cameras and stuff.
Right, you gotta get people in there.
Point at it. So yeah, when he appears to be inside of a tunnel, just whatever part of the tunnel you're not seeing, there's, you know, that got removed and stuff like that.
But there's intention behind the sort of claustrophobic name.
Well, there's some
feel like to a certain extent, right? Like in a smaller ship, especially if there's a lot of people in there.
Yeah. There was there were some cases where the crew really had to like squeeze into places, you know, like there are people under the flooring, especially the puppeteers. They had to really
squeeze into places
in weird positions and places and reaching up from under the floor, hanging from the ceiling or whatever. They had their like little ninja suits on. Like ninja black outfits on, so they're easier to comp out and in post and stuff. It was fun.
That sounds fascinating. Cool. Anything else you wanted to add? Kind of fascinated you about the process of adaptation or anything like that?
Well, I mean, the whole process was really interesting because you know, this is my second rodeo, right? Because The Martian got made into a film, but I was really just sort of an exterior observer on The Martian. I wasn't on set when they were shooting. I wasn't. They invited me, but I didn't want to go to Budapest. So yeah, this time I was there watching the details of like every little thing play out. Like long period of discussion about exactly what should be written on the whiteboard in the background and, stuff like that. It's just interesting, all like the incredible amount of thought that goes into like something that'll go by in 2 seconds and you might not even notice,
Is that I see you're working on a math problem on your whiteboard back there.
Oh,
Is that
yeah. That's actually, that's from quite a while ago. That's just how to square a complex number.
All right. Final question. What's your favorite cocktail recipe? You like to make you like to make drinks, right?
I do. My favorite to drink is a rum old fashioned. So I have my recipe for it, which is just 2 ounces rum, maybe 1/8 of an ounce of simple syrup, and then 2 dashes of Angostura, and then 2 dashes of Angostura orange, built, served on ice in a low ball glass. So that's my kind of drink of choice if I'm making it myself. It runs a little sweet, but that's how I like it. But what I really like is that the old fashioned is like probably one of the first actual cocktails. It predates the whole cocktail revolution that came later. They were making old fashions in the 50s. And so as a result, there is no standardized recipe for an old fashioned. So if you go into any bar in America and ask for an old fashioned, you'll get a different experience because each bartender has their own kind of way of doing it. And so I just go into a bar and say, like, I want a rum old fashioned. So I want you to make an old fashioned, which is usually made with whiskey, and just substitute in a dark rum for it and just do whatever your bartender usually does. And I get a different drink every time.
Every time slightly different. Sometimes you like it better, sometimes worse, or is it always?
Yeah. Some of them I'm like, had better. But it's kind of neat to have variety.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's true too. Cool, man. Well, appreciate your time. We're gonna make the we're gonna make your signature cocktail tonight. We're gonna call it the Astrophage cocktail.
The Astrophage cocktail.
Unless
sounds good.
Unless that'd be yeah. Cool, man. Well, appreciate it, and
all right,
have fun.
Good seeing you again, man. All right.
Bye.